in order to sort of fix the business model of the music industry so that artists and musicians are actually paid fairly and compensated for their work, we felt that we needed to reinvent the business model and use a totally new technology that would enable us to do things that weren't possible in the past.
Welcome to Hedera Hashgraph's Gossip About Gossip. I'm Daniel Francis.
I'm Ken Anderson.
And I'm Paul Madsen.
If you are a developer, an entrepreneur, crypto enthusiast, or just trying to learn more about how distributed ledger technology and Hedera Hashgraph will impact your industry, then you'll love the episodes that we have coming up. Bookmark us, add us to your podcast app, and stay tuned.
Hey there, and welcome to Hedera Hashgraph, Gossip About Gossip. I'm Paul Madsen, your host. Little known fact about me that most people don't know is that I'm a musician. My mom made me take guitar lessons as a 10-year-old, and I became quite proficient at the first few notes of Windy by The Association, my one song. So it's because of that extensive musical background, I'm excited to talk today to Andrew Antar from Hearo.fm, who are building what they describe as a music marketplace for the world on top of Hedera. Welcome, Andrew.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So you're a musician too. So we have that in common.
Absolutely, yeah. Instead of guitar, my mom had me practicing violin from age 4 onwards, sometimes up to 2 to 3 hours a day.
Cool.
So we grew up with classically trained music.
I just joined Hearo.fm this morning and I found your profile. Southwest. I love Southwest by yourself.
Oh, thanks.
Hearing some Bella Fleck in there.
Yeah, just messing around a bunch. At some point, I'll actually get around to releasing something worthy. But
no, that was cool. So as a musician, let's temporarily put aside your DApp entrepreneur hat. But as a musician, what problems are you trying to solve with Hearo?
So essentially, artists and musicians are always getting the short end of the stick. And we just saw that as sort of a global injustice for an art form and media form that really hasn't seen the light of day and hasn't really been monetized in a fair way. The monetization of music is generally based on the distribution technology. So whether that's a cassette tape or CD or pirated download or stream, it generally is tied to some underlying distribution technology. And so in order to sort of fix the business model of the music industry so that artists and musicians are actually paid fairly and compensated for their work, we felt that we needed to reinvent the business model and use a totally new technology that would enable us to do things that weren't possible in the past. Most notably, micropayments for every second of streaming. So when the music gets played, the artist gets paid.
So it's like most dApps. It seems to me that most dApps, their value proposition is righting the inequities and inefficiencies of some current system. I think I read on your white paper something about Spotify and how much Spotify pays the artist per stream and how long it takes for that payment to go through.
It actually is less than half a penny per play gets paid to the rights holder, not the artist. And then 10% of that gets to the artist sometime within the next year or two, sometimes up to 2.5 years. So it's a super inefficient system. And for 1 million streams, you might crack $20. And that's just not going to do it in terms of buying groceries or paying your rent. So, and 1 million streams is a significant number. And so we're hoping that if you're hitting those kinds of numbers, that you'd actually be able to earn a living wage just from the streaming, and you won't be forced to tour just to actually make up any revenue.
So as I said, I joined Hearo and playing around, searching for artists, discovering artists, liking them, quote unquote, reviewing them. And I see existing economic mechanisms in there by which I could pay. I think I could add my credit card. How is that going to change? How's the user experience going to change when you move to a micropayments model on Hedera?
Yeah, so the current product, Hearo.fm, is essentially a fiat two-sided marketplace. And so sort of like iTunes, you can just buy music, buy downloads, but we sort of improved upon that so that the artists can control everything. They keep 90% of the money. They can set their price whether they're selling their song for 99 cents or $3.99 or 3 cents. It's really up to them. So we really wanted to give artists control over that. The issue is, of course, fiat. And so with credit card fees, you have 30 cents plus 3%. Plus, that has to be split amongst all the songs that were in that cart. And that could be multiple artists. So we have fees that are impacting artists. It has to be split up in various different ways. And it became super complicated. And at the end of the day, the credit cards were making all the money. And so we decided that even though it's great that somebody can sell an album for whatever price they want on our platform, we need a better way that really addresses the streaming behavior of the consumer and allows them to sort of pay as they go. Now that streaming has been taking off with 30 to 50% growth rates year over year, there's still a lot of problems with streaming that have to be addressed. And it's a one-size-fits-all solution that doesn't really work for everyone. So we wanted to find a way that was sort of in between, where you can pay as you go, but also earn rewards for helping the system flourish. So whether that's discovering new music that you've never heard before, or reviewing and curating music, all of that actually helps the ecosystem. So we wanted a way to actually reward the listener as well. And so all of these ideas required a form of tokenization. And so we evaluated a bunch of different technologies and chains and things like Stellar and EOS and others, Steam. And when I discovered Hashgraph, actually, you were the first person from Hashgraph that I spoke to well before the public launch. I gave you a call because I saw you active in some of the Discord threads and whatnot, Telegram. So you really wanted to deep dive and figure out how the technology worked all the way. And you really helped explain some of the more complex aspects of how it works. So back to your question, essentially we're ripping out all the fiat features in the marketplace and replacing them with Hashgraph-based technologies. So essentially we're creating our own token that's going to run on top of Hashgraph that will enable us to provide micro incentives and rewards to new users and existing users for doing things that help the ecosystem, and then also paying artists directly for every second of streaming. So essentially, the new platform is going to be called Tune.fm, and it's going to be launched as a new product based on the existing audio infrastructure, technology, and social networking features of Hearo.fm, but a completely rethought business model with micropayments and the Jam token all running on Hashgraph.
Cool. Let's come back to the Jam token, but just to the sort of the symmetry of the economics that you described. I thought it was interesting in the white paper that, not only do users pay the artists for listening, kind of the obvious economic, but artists can also pay users to listen, to sort of get that first exposure.
Yeah. So we're calling that first stream the discovery stream. And so if you think about it, if you've never listened to a song before, you're taking a risk on that new song, that new artist, especially if you don't even know who the artist is. And it's similar to an artist paying to have their song stream on the radio station, on terrestrial radio, so that most people of their audience haven't heard it. But in many ways, they actually have to invest in marketing their music and sometimes pay the radio station. So in this case, we're building that directly into the model so that the first stream is actually free as a discovery stream, but the artist can opt to pay an additional amount to get guaranteed first-time listeners and have a full dashboard of who's actually discovering their music for their first time. And so as a fan, if you take the risk of listening to new music that you've never heard before, you can actually get paid a reward in Jam, essentially the equivalent that the artist would get paid for the subsequent streams. So if you actually like the song that you just heard, then you might stream it again and again, maybe hundreds of times in the future, and you're a lifetime customer for that artist, and now you've paid out more to the artist. So that was an investment that's worthwhile. Now, if the song is terrible and you switch to the next song after 5 seconds, then clearly that investment's not going to pay off. So it's really the quality of the music that that is going to determine whether, it's worth promoting, but we're allowing the artist to actually promote their music directly on the platform by paying out every second of streaming, and they can purchase those in minute bundles, essentially, like 10 minutes, 100 minutes, what have you.
Yeah, it's like premise of the basic attention token in the Brave browser, right? You acknowledge the value of a user's attention, and you can put a price on it because of what you might gain. So that is mostly about ads, I guess, and paying users to view ads, and you're going to pay users for that first potentially critical listen, that first stream.
Yeah, that is the marketing investment, essentially.
You also talk about provably streamed minutes. How are you going to validate that the user, in some sense, actually engaged with the music and isn't just jumping around?
Yeah, so the whole idea of provable first-time streams is that we want to have a lot of data about that listener. And this is all encapsulated in our proof of stream protocol. What that is a combination of validations that are both in the database as well as data that we're picking up during the actual session. So it's similar to an oracle that we're taking off-chain data and putting it on-chain. And so what that is where the user is, how long they streamed the song, what their volume was at, whether their system status was idle or their mouse was moving, stuff like that. And so we're able to know exactly how many seconds were streamed, who that fan is, where they are, what volume it was at, what their activity was like. So this is a sort of snapshot of the health of that listener. And so we're trying to combat, potential scammers or bots, and making sure that it's real people discovering real music for the first time who are actually listening.
Maybe with some biometric data, you could determine if the user was nodding their head in tune to the music. And
Yeah. We've thought about a lot of different things, potentially, pinging the microphone, but we want to sort of balance security and privacy with getting that validation. And so this could grow. The proof of stream audio protocol can become more sophisticated over time. That could include biometrics or any other thing, maybe Face ID or something. But essentially, it's our way of proving that what we're saying is happening is actually happening.
Right. And give that certainty to the artist through some sort of dashboard.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to provide an unprecedented level of data and view into what's actually going on, where you'd be able to see down to the granular second of who's streaming and how long and maybe what part of the song that they stopped. Maybe you have a lot of people who, that at the third or fourth minute is like the best part of the song, but 60% of your listeners that you're paying for are dropping off after 23 seconds. Well, maybe it's because that from 15 to 20 seconds got really boring and you needed to pick it up a little bit. So in many ways, this is also a feedback mechanism for the artist. And we found that artists, especially when they have a new release and they're sort of self-conscious about it, sort of the classic artist self-doubt, they really love to have feedback and give it out to fans just to listen and tell them what they think. And so in addition to that, there's the review function, where fans can actually get paid to review the music, and the fans can achieve different levels of music critic status. So curator or a really high-end music critic, there are different levels that they can achieve in a sort of gamified environment. So the more respected you are, you would get paid more for your review because your album review might be of higher value. But also the artist can sort of do a sort of reward and have a crowdsourced review. So many people can do a review, and then based on the upvoting, they can reward the top 3 or top review. So there's many ways that we can source reviews and curation, and that will ultimately help the algorithm sort the music, because we want the music to be totally democratized so that really the listening data and user data is what influences the algorithms which rank the music, which is really what drives discovery and how you find stuff.
So that curator role, that authentic and validated reviewer, that implies to me the need to be able to sort of bind outside identity, a known either artist or reviewer, and bind that into the platform so that people can have confidence that it is indeed that person giving the reviews. Do you imagine taking advantage of the sort of native functionality in Hedera for enabling that?
We are focusing very strongly on identity as well. And so one of the things that we've worked on using Hedera is our private key custody and recovery process, so that essentially we can have secure wallets that are tied to accounts with real identities that are KYC'd, and have a key custody solution so that anyone who doesn't understand crypto who's never heard of a seed phrase before won't have to worry or go through that process. And if they really want to, they can download their keys and maintain custody and port their wallet and do whatever they want if they're sort of a crypto guy. But for the 99% everyday user, we want it to be so easy that your grandmother can do it. And it's as easy as just signing up, and all your wallets and keys and identity and everything is managed for you. So we are using a lot of Hedera features, the smart contracts, the file storage, micropayments, and everything. And so all that is part of it.
So with respect to the smart contracts, so the JAM token you've referred to, it's an ERC20?
Yeah, we're essentially generating tokens that'll run on top of Hedera, and those tokens will be the exclusive currency of our music economy. And so when you sign up, you'll get free JAM tokens. When you play music, you'll be paying out or receiving JAM tokens. And so there'll be many different products on the marketplace, whether that's first time listens, 1,000 minutes, or a bundle of reviews, or buying merchandise or tickets or shows. And the sky's the limit in terms of what we can put into the marketplace.
So Tune.fm, what's the timeline for that?
So we are in many ways tied to the Hedera timeline, but we are very much on schedule. We've built out most of the Hedera features, and essentially we are just doing a lot of hardening and finishing the final features and upgrading aspects of the front end and getting a lot of things done. In terms of that, we're implemented a bulk transfer method so we can batch our transactions by a certain number of minutes or JAM or number of transactions and different things like that. A lot of crypto related utilities, and also our integration with Carbon Money in order to have a full fiat on-ramp and off-ramp. So right from the get-go, you'll be able to buy JAM with a credit card and cash out your JAM to a bank account. And so that's super important for us, is to not have it be a walled garden and be totally open on day one.
Cool. The batching you referred to, I assume you're aware of the consensus service. I expect that might be of interest to you in the future.
There's definitely a possibility that we build a system using consensus service. And we're still looking into that. There's some really interesting models with messaging and whatnot. I think that the consensus is a super important component of Hedera, along with the throughput and everything else. But we are definitely looking into that and considering all the possibilities.
Cool. Andrew, thanks very much for this. Very interesting. I think I'm going to create an artist profile and try to sell my recording of Windy by the Association.
Nice.
I look forward to seeing Tune.fm when it comes out, hopefully around the time of Hedera's open access launch, which is coming up soon. So look forward to that.
Thanks. Yeah. Hopefully sometime in the fall.
Thanks again, Andrew.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Hedera Hashgraph's Gossip About Gossip. If you liked the episode, please subscribe, rate and review, and also share and tell your friends.
Or connect with us on social media like Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Hashgraph, particularly if you want to leave us feedback on the podcast. We look forward to hearing from you.